Welcome to Hybiz News. My name is Suresh Kochatan. The Covid-19 pandemic has struck terror across the world. It has decimated populations, decimated economies, and literally destroyed many a country's fortunes. But beyond it all, there is a race to develop a vaccine so that the rest of the population can be saved. More importantly, many organizations across the world are also developing testing kits and trying to find out who the COVID positive patients are. Imported kits from China, which were brought into India a couple of weeks ago, failed in the test. And that is a good enough reason why we should go for a Make in India policy. One of the organizations at the forefront of the race to develop a testing kit locally is Sristi Biotech. And we have with us today Jayaraman Packirisamy, Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director of Sristi Biotech, to speak to us on various issues about COVID-19, testing kits, and eventually how this entire thing is panning out. Welcome to the show, Mr. Jayaraman. My question to you would be very, very simple. What is this COVID-19 all about? How do we handle it? How does it impact our body? We've been told wash our hands, wear a mask, don't touch your face, etc., etc. But beyond it all, from a scientific perspective, what is this virus all about?
Yeah, that's a big question, because maybe $1 billion or even $1 trillion question when you ask about COVID-19's disease biology. COVID-19 disease biology is getting complicated as we know more about it. Say, we are stuck with the lung, and then the more and more investigations as we do, the disease biology is throwing us more impact on organs. For example, if we go by the distribution of ACE2, the receptor which actually is enabling the COVID-19 entry into the system, it is nearly almost all important vital organs are getting affected. For example, the distribution of ACE2 in colon, the gallbladder, the lung. So nearly 9 to 10 vital organs are under risk, we can say. But with our previous knowledge, we look at SARS and then SARS-CoV-2. That's how we have been kind of maneuvering our investigation, and then we are arriving at the symptoms. But as we see it now, with more and more studies on the disease biology of COVID-19, I think the threat may be a little more serious than what we actually expect. It may affect a bowel syndrome, or for colon, or a heart attack, or kidney. Anything can be a target of this virus. We'll have to wait and see more and more data to come up, and then but it is definitely there to say that COVID-19's infection has impact on various organs, not just with lung.
Mr. Jayaraman, that, as you rightly said, is $1 billion or $1 trillion question. But the question obviously is, what kind of tests are required to, one, check the entire population, or check the suspected cases? Two different things as we speak of, because the main accusation in India against India has been that the level of testing, the numbers, has been pretty low, and that is why we are able to keep the cases low. I think it's no longer true right now because the number of cases have gone up. But in your, from your expertise that you can talk about, can you just explain to us what are these two different kind of tests that are done to determine a COVID positive patient?
Testing strategy, if you look at it, I seriously can tell you that we have not really come to a point where we do a test which is a one-time detection of or immunodetection of the COVID, and then probably stratify, segregate people, and then start working on an exit strategy. Do we have a one-time immunodetection strategy with our current technology of various test kit options, so that probably we can plan, stratify people, strategize, and then have an exit plan? That's where the whole issue of the quality of testing comes in. Currently, we have two categories of tests which we have been talking widely. One is the PCR based, which actually accurately determines the presence of the infection or not. It is more of a RNA specific. And we know that, it needs some repetition. It has to be repeated and slightly costlier. The other side is the antibody test. The antibody test is where the whole lot of the issues that we have been seeing. I have to take the reference of what WHO, World Health Organization, has actually mentioned regarding the antibody test kits. They have clearly said that unless it is COVID-19 specific, it is not recommended to actually look at or explore the options of an antibody test kit. Which means, do we have a specific COVID-19 specific antibody test kit being released in the world today? Is a question mark. We really don't know if, and I really don't know how the existing test kits are validated for its markers, presence of COVID-19, and then it is allowed to get into the testing arena. So antibody test kits, I think there are companies which are working on the antibody test kits, which really has not released its COVID-19 specific test kits, antibody test kits into the market, but still under development as far as our knowledge is concerned. But the existing antibody test kits have to be really questioned.
That Mr. Jayaraman actually clarifies a lot of things. My next obvious question would be, Sristi Biotech, when did it all start? Where did it begin? What was the dream for you to start this company? And what exactly are you doing right now? From what I heard from you, talking to you, that you are very close to developing a testing kit for Made in India policy. The question would be, one is, what is that kit all about? Can you explain to us a bit more detail about your company and the activities that you're undertaking?
Sristi Biosciences, we've been a 12 years old company into discovery research. We spend a lot of time in a space where we do support the multinational research companies, drug discovery and biologics research companies, in a very, very specific space of decision-centric research intelligence. We provide them, we help them, enable them with research data and then take them forward. We also support them experimentally validating our claims. Coming into COVID-19 specific, it's been very interesting since we started looking at the issues of COVID-19 and the way it has been progressing and the spreading across the world. In February mid, we thought that we require a different approach to handling COVID-19. That's where we thought we need a very, very, very short and agile research and development cycle in order to either achieve a antibody vaccine strategy or any alternate vaccine strategy. Simultaneously, we need something very, very progressive and quick in terms of understanding the infection, detecting the infection one time, and then getting into managing the disease from there. So we started our research investigations into this, and then we kind of put up a project which is more an antibody vaccine based project. Late February, and then now we have come to a point where we have some candidates in hand. We can clearly say these are antibody based vaccine candidates based on a technology called single chain fragment variable technology, which means we won't waste time studying the entire protein sequence or the gene sequence. We will be looking at the variable region that is very, very specific to COVID-19, and then we'll be addressing the solutions in terms of either therapy or in terms of creating a marker for detecting the immunity, detecting the antigen or immunity can be planned. So our strategy is more into creating some what we call a single chain fragment variable markers that are COVID-19 specific, and that can be achieved in the shortest possible time, so that these markers can give us way into immunodetection. By itself, these markers are going to be antibody markers. We may say these are kind of minimalized markers. We can say minimalized antibodies that works functionally very specific to COVID-19. Our strategy is also to not get into the the RNA of the virus. Instead, we wanted to target the surface proteins, the spike, the membrane, the envelope proteins, so that during development, the risk of infection is less during R&D as well. So we took this strategy, and now we have achieved nearly, last week we have released nearly 27 markers. Those are human antibody markers humanized in E. coli, expressed in E. coli in simple terms, that are ready to be used in test kits, and we are in the process of putting it in the test kits and getting it validated. And by itself, these antibodies, these minimalized variable antibodies, are candidates for therapy. And we are also getting into late stage preclinical development, and hope that in the next 45 to 60 days we may be ready to go into some kind of clinical studies. That's where we stand right now.
Mr. Jayaraman, a couple of questions before you actually explain to us the different types of test, the PCR and the quick reaction kind of test. Now, in a country like India, with a population of say 130 crore that we have today, it was just impossible to do mass testing. And experts have been advocating various types of testing, including cluster testing, including testing only the suspects, their primary contacts, and maybe keeping the secondary contacts under surveillance. But according to you, what should be the right methodology of testing for India? Is it the quick reaction test, whatever we want to call it by that name, or should it be the full-fledged PCR test? What works more effectively for a country like India?
It has to be rapid. Testing has to be rapid, but the rapid should be both antigen as well as antibody together. That's what we mean by one-step immunodetection, wherein it's not possible to kind of do a rapid antibody test and then see if there is a trace, then probably do a PCR test to confirm whether the infection is there or not, and kind of circumventing things is going to be very, very difficult. A single, say 15 to 20 minute rapid test, which can actually detect the infection as well as check the status of the immunity in a patient, an infected patient, together. That's the only way in which we can actually stratify people and then probably group them and then organize them towards an exit plan. Currently, this is not possible because we don't have one-step immunodetection plan as such. We have to either depend on PCR for infection alone. To check the immunity strength, then we have to depend on antibody, which is not specific at this juncture. So that's where I think we are in a crossroads, and we see the governments across the world are struggling to really arrive at a strategy to plan an exit out of a lockdown or to even control the disease infection. So I think, more and more believing in the markers, the COVID-specific markers, and then taking them to the market quickly, as quick as possible, so that we mass produce the test kits and then make those rapid test kits available, wherein we can actually check the antigen as well as antibody together at one go, and then start stratifying people, and then organize a plan, at least to work out a plan in terms of handling the pandemic. I think that's becoming very, very critical at this juncture. This exactly is the point where we have started working, and then in the last 35 to 40 days, we have kind of come to a point where we scientifically have solved the problem. Now it's all about taking the solution into the healthcare system, that too in an organized way, in a way that the system accepts it, understands it, and then executes it. That's where the whole point lies. So we are doing our best in terms of translating the technology into lateral flow immunoassay systems, which is going to be a kind of a dual immunoassay. When I say dual, it's going to be both antigen as well as antibody being tested together from the same test kit. Then I think that's where we will probably get a direction towards planning this pandemic in terms of either controlling, managing, or for that matter, even if you want to exit the economic issues and the close downs and things like that. I think somewhere we really need to have this solution. This is the critical starting point, as far as we understand. I think more and more people whom we have been discussing across the world is also of the same idea. those companies that are working on COVID-19 specific rapid test kits in different technologies. We are working on a short chain fragment variable technology. A few companies across the world, a UK company is working on an aptamer based technology. There's another company working on an affirmer based rapid point of care technology. But these are all different strategies across the world. But all of us are moving towards the same solution, that unless a rapid point of care single step immunodetection is done, it's difficult to manage.
Mr. Jayaraman, this is a very, very personal question, so as to speak of. Being an entrepreneur in India, running a startup in India is not easy. We are used to a license Raj, which got dismantled in the last couple of decades. But more importantly, we have a lot of red tape still left over. The colonial hangover is still there in terms of the Babu Dam. As an entrepreneur, especially in the last couple of months, did you feel frustrated that you were in a country like India, that your testing kits needed you to run around the entire place, get so many permissions and so many okays from different institutions of the government? Did you feel like throwing it all up and walking off, and felt that either you should have been in Singapore or a Silicon Valley, or for that matter even China, where you could have got this product from the lab to the market in the shortest possible time?
That's a good question to answer, actually. Not just in the last 1 or 2 months, but since it came back to me and my partner, we both of us have come into India to do something for the country, and then with some passion we started our entrepreneurship. There have been difficulties, but we know these difficulties or these limitations are unique to India, which we have to accept and then handle it. We can't deny that there are no constraints. There are difficulties, and there are moments we felt a little bad. Imagine building a project, executing it in 35-40 days in a closed down condition, wherein we start doing the bioinformatics, then the gene synthesis, the peptide synthesis, buying the reagents, moving it into the labs, opening up the labs, making people work on this, and then eventually taking material back and forth into various validation labs across, including not just India, across the world. It's been a challenge. And maybe for small entrepreneurs like this, yes, of course there are a lot of difficulties. We have to really face everything and then come out. Maybe entrepreneurs with a little more exposure, and then maybe I can say bigger entrepreneurs or bigger corporates may have some advantages to overcome problems like this. But yes, of course, as small entrepreneurs, we do have some difficulties in facing this. Doing some work on things like this under closed down conditions, yes.
Mr. Jayaraman, I know you did answer that question about being an entrepreneur, but how quickly you think that you can now get this testing kit off the ground in a country like India? Because we desperately need it. Because as the numbers keep multiplying, we need to test more people. But having faced so many hurdles, having come so close to releasing this product into the market, how confident are you? And when are you looking at to launch this product in India, the testing kit in India? Because we are woefully short of testing kits right now, having rejected the whole lot from China. So when can we hear the good news?
Yeah, no doubt about that. We are optimistic, and we can't deny that the system is not cooperating. The system is in fact cooperating. Just that there's always a communication gap given the kind of problems government face right now, and then trying to take our idea, penetrate the idea into the system and make them understand is slightly tough. We also have our own approaches, like for example, we kind of started collaborating. Our idea is not just to bring the test kits for India. We wanted to make it available to the entire world. So we have opened up our collaborations with multinational companies, and then started sharing our technology. We tied up with Cytiva, we are working with them. It is formerly a GE healthcare company. In terms of translating the marker into the LFA platform so that it is made available to the market as soon as possible, not just in India, across the world. Similarly, we are also working with the regulators in India, trying to take their opinions in shortening the regulatory time. Because as far as we experience it, I think starting from validating the marker and then giving a test protocol for the regulators to validate it, cross-validate what we say is true or not, it by itself is again a challenge here. So we need to work with the regulators, and then we are doing that. And we are working with CCMB and other related. CDSCO has been really cooperative in guiding us in terms of applying for the license and getting it through. So that way, yes, of course, we are very, very optimistic about taking it. Maybe in a few weeks' time, we should be in a position to make it available to the market.
Mr. Jayaraman, you were very forthright, at your best in terms of putting across your point of view and telling us, calling a spade a spade. Thank you very much for speaking to us at Hybiz News, and it's been a pleasure interacting with you. That was Jayaraman Packirisamy, Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Sristi Bio, who is trying to develop a kit and is almost there to be released into the Indian market. From Hybiz News, we wish him all the best. Thank you for watching.